In this video, we're going to talk about Disney logo design, specifically Dumbo, because I just finished watching the movie, and after I ended up crying my eyes out, when I watch a movie or play a video game, I get excited and I want to talk about it. And because I do a lot of logo design and branding, I want to help show you guys my process of how I do it and how I approach and problem solve, and then maybe we can all learn something, because let's face it, Disney, they make the rules and they break the rules, and it's a really easy way to learn from the people that do it the best. What I end up making looks like this. The first thing I do is I like to look into the history of it. So I have Dumbo here, the original, like the VHS, and what kind of things I can glean from these logos. If we look at the top left logo here, we have more of a circus typeface, and that's, it's very reflective of Dumbo because he's in a circus. And then here we have a little bit more of a modern-y circus typeface, but they're really hitting the circus. The top left one is a little thicker, and the top right one is a lot thicker and a lot more heavy, so it's got a lot of weight to it. So that's kind of going back in time a little bit. So now we're going to jump into the 2019 version of the logo. And this is something that I see a lot of people getting caught up on. It's something that companies don't quite understand, and it's something that I help companies work through. A lot of people think that this is the logo, right? And it is, but it's what I would call the logo with the flair and the kind of the selling factor. You really have an emphasis on it, and usually a logo is just for identification. It's just it's not the main feature. But what they did here is they made it a main feature, and I call this like logo flair. You're adding a lot of flair to the logo, but you can't forget about the base. And we'll go back and we'll look at this. So this is kind of like the end result of a marketing material where you have Dumbo here, and you even on the Disney, you have some cracking going along. And the reason you don't necessarily want this, you only want this for certain marketing materials, it's not the actual logo that works with everything, is because there's just too much texture and detail and things going on, so it's not as universal, right? As you scale it down, the texture is kind of hard to see, it's kind of hard to use in different aspects. It's not bad for one-offs or for showing it in a certain light, like maybe some box art or something like that, and that's why when you have a big agency or people who really know what they're doing, you can do that. So this is actually the logo. Okay, this is the logo without all the flair and the awesomeness of it. And it looks simple, it's like, oh, whatever. But to me, this is the base, this is what the bones of it. So if you can create a mark like this, right, where it's just the font, and it has, or the typeface, and it has a nice little curve to the bottom of it. And as for detail, the only real detail that's going on is this it's sort of a stenciled, beveled kind of thing that's outlining everything. And if we can stick to those types of marks, then what we can do is, when it comes time to add the flair, like in this example, this was actually in the trailer, they took this logo. So first off, they still have the arc, but it looks like it's lit from the bottom. We got a flare happening right here. And then we also have a gradation going lighter to darker. So, and then as well as we get that beveled effect here, where it's more lit from the bottom as well. And then we have the bevel effect coming up. So if we can build a beautiful mark, something that just works in a lot of different circumstances, then we can do a lot with it. We can go from this to going really out there to this. Like here we got a ton going on, and it's not gonna, there's too much detail to work in every single circumstance. But in some circumstances, it works perfectly, right? For the trailer, or maybe if they're gonna do like a poster or something like that, it works fine. Because it doesn't, like if we scale it down, you can kind of, scale it down, the texture gets lost and it's hard to read. You're kind of putting yourself in a little bit of a box here. It's not as flexible as you would want it. So as long as we have a really good starting point, we can do these things. If you have the money, if you have the budget, if you have the time, if you have the expertise, then you can go with this. And you can add in the wood texture, and you can add in the gold trim around it, and or even on this, and they even take their own logo, the Disney logo, and they add in the texture and the gold trim to it. But it's normally you would see just the Disney without the texture and the coloring of it. So that's kind of, as long as we have a solid base, that's what I think we should always focus on. And then afterwards, when companies maybe want to do a commercial, or you want to do something awesome with your logo, then as long as you have a solid base, you can do these things. You can make it look this way. Okay, so we got the before history, we got this history out. Now I'm gonna start my own kind of redesign of it, how I would approach this. And what I first like to do is kind of look at typefaces, right? You can see here that they have that circus feel, and I'm gonna go a little bit away from that because it's already been done. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the first part of this video series.